weekend. Here's Norm Ordez.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Clubhouse Chatter. Once again, I am Norm. That is producer Brian, and we are Clubhouse Chatter. So we're going a little bit down a different road today. And so generally, we're a baseball program. And so the other day, I was sitting around and I saw something pop up on Facebook from a friend of mine, Dr. Matthew Johnson, and it had to deal with Bigfoot. And I got to thinking, why isn't Bigfoot used more in baseball? So Eugene uses it, and then it dawned on me, I need to get Dr. J on the show. And so, hey, here he is, Dr. Matthew Johnson. Dr. J, how you doing?
Hey, Norm, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, I'm excited about this, so I got to be honest with you. So I'm a skeptic of Bigfoot. Now, I have watched your story over the years numerous times. And I think I'm only a skeptic because I've never seen or I've never been in the area of one. But, I listened to your story and it's, I think I want to believe, and I believe that you definitely had an experience with one. There is no doubt by your story. And so let's, so first of all, who is Dr. J?
Well, Dr. J, first of all, your listeners need to know is not a baseball player.
That's right.
In my past, about 35 years ago, or about 50 pounds ago, I used to actually play basketball. And I got to play college ball against a bunch of nobodies like Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, Clyde Drexler, James Worthy, those kind of guys. And I actually grew up in Salem, Oregon, and moved to Anchorage, Alaska in 1980 on a basketball scholarship, played ball there, graduated with a social work degree, went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, was still playing basketball with an elite group of players, and was asked to try out for the New Jersey Nets in the NBA, but turned them down to go after my doctorate degree instead. I'm often asked why I did that, and I did that because A, they were the worst team in the NBA, and B, I probably would have been the bench warmer for the worst team. So I got my doctorate degree from Fox University in Newberg, Oregon, and then wrote a parenting book, Parenting with a Plan, and spoke in 80 cities a year for over 10 years, so all 50 states several times, most Canadian provinces, and spoke at the World Family Therapy Conference in Europe, training counselors from around the world. And then on July 1st, 2000, my family and I were hiking on a trail, the Big Tree Loop Trail above the Oregon Caves in southern Oregon, and that's when we ran into a Bigfoot, and that's what sparked my interest.
And it is a fascinating story, and I'm sure we'll get into a little bit about it. And a lot of questions going through my mind. I mean, number one is, what did you do? I mean, you saw it, and what did you do? What did it do? And let's go through that day a little bit, and on what happened, what you did, and how you saw it.
Well, we had just moved down from Alaska 6 months earlier, and we decided to, and keep in mind I was a 20-year resident of Alaska, lots of camping and fishing and hiking and a little bit of hunting experience. I've been in the outdoors all over the state of Alaska, so I'm not unfamiliar with the outdoors, and I'm not unfamiliar with wildlife. So we moved down to southern Oregon, and we decided to take the kids to the Oregon Caves, and at that time they were ages 9, 7, and 5. And we went through the caves, and anyone who's taken a tour through the caves knows that it's pretty cold inside the caves. We got back out. We pulled a an igloo cooler out of the back of the car, sat at the picnic table, ate a lunch, and then decided to take that hike. So we went up the right side of the Big Tree Loop Trail. We hiked up about a mile above the caves on the mountainside, and that's when we smelled something really pungent that was coming down the mountainside. It was thick tree, thick brush. You couldn't see, but you could smell it. Definitely got our attention. It was as strong as a skunk, but was not a skunk. But we weren't afraid. We were just curious. We kept hiking, and we rounded a switchback corner, and we started being paralleled by something. And we couldn't see it, but we could hear it. When we were walking, it would make this deep bass guttural mammal noise. Whoa, whoa, whoa. When we stopped, it was quiet. When we walked, it did it again. Eventually, we got to a point on the path where we weren't, hearing anything, smelling anything. And the kids needed a little bit of a break, so they were playing with a bug on the path with a stick, and my wife was watching it, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I hiked up the slope of the mountain above the trail through the brush and trees so I could go do my thing. And when I was pulling my pants back up, I was scanning down the slope, trying to see if I could see what was paralleling us, if it was in the area, and that's when I saw Bigfoot walk off the pages of myth and legend into reality. And it was standing behind a tree and watching my family on the trail.
So at that point, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
At that point, I literally felt the cognitive schema in my brain crash. It just literally crashed. I had nothing. In my 20 years of residency in Alaska and growing up in Oregon, I had nothing to pin the tail on the donkey of what this was. And, as a kid, you grow up, you hear these campfire stories about Bigfoot, and it's like, yeah, whatever. But there he was. there he was. And it just crashed, and I could feel it reboot, and then I had these really protective instincts kicked in, and I ran down through the brush and trees to the path, and moved my family out of there. They had no idea why I was moving them out of there. They just knew that that wasn't my normal behavior, and I certainly wasn't going to tell them because I didn't want to freak them out and try to manage their behaviors with, a 9-foot, 10-foot squatch watching us. So I moved them up the trail a couple hundred yards around a switchback, a couple hundred more yards. Nothing was following us. Sat the kids down on a log, gave them some water, pulled my wife aside and said, "You're not going to believe what I saw." And she said, "What?" And I said, "I saw Bigfoot." And she said, "I believe you." So then we came up with a game plan to get the kids off the mountain. Still didn't tell them anything. And eventually got down back to the visitor center and sent the kids into the gift store, and we sat outside the gift store on the bench debating the pros and cons of filing a report. And we ultimately decided that if we had seen a cougar up there or a black bear, we would make a report to the park administration because, safety issues. So why not report this? So she went into the gift store to be with the kids, and I walked over to the park headquarters and filed a report.
So now you're a very large man, and comparing sizes, how big? You said 9-10 feet tall. Was it just?
I'm almost 7 feet tall. I'm 6'9". I have size 16 feet. I weigh over 300 pounds. What I saw made me like a little kid, or made me look like a baseball player standing next to an NBA player.
and
I'm sorry, I had to get that in.
Absolutely. And Dr. J does that quite a bit. He'll make his little references to baseball and basketball, which is great. So Bigfoot. So color-wise, what describe what you saw.
He was about 9 to 10 feet tall. He was standing behind this really big tree, looking over the top of a new growth tree. And he was dark brown to black, definitely hairy. The head, he had protruding brow ridges. Face looked human, but a little distorted. So he had protruding brow ridges, a flat nose. His mouth wasn't out like some chimp or an ape or anything. It was flat face like a human. The back side of his head was kind of cone-shaped. And he was a big boy. He was big. And, you know, I was, at that time, 16 years ago, traumatized. I experienced PTSD after that encounter. I had nightmares for about a month straight of watching him rip my family apart every night in a dream. But that fear, that response that I had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with myself and how I was responding to the unknown, which 16 years later, I've heard a lot of other people's stories, and they do the same thing. They, Bigfoot chased me, or I saw Bigfoot and I was scared, and somehow they feel like their life was threatened, but nobody ever dies, nobody ever gets injured or killed. In other words, they're not dangerous. But we project our fears onto them and somehow try to make them dangerous.
Wow. And so PTSD to follow, and and did you say that was kind of a common link to other people who have cited Bigfoot as well?
Yeah, there's not everyone that sees a Bigfoot for the first time experiences a traumatic emotional response, but a lot of people do. And that seemed to be my little niche for at least the first, 10 years. People would contact me via phone calls or emails saying that they needed help to process through what they were dealing with. I had this one woman who lived in the state of Washington who contacted me, and she was in therapy for a couple of years, and her therapist would say, well, Bigfoot is just a symbolic representation of your fears and anxieties and perhaps some anger that you have towards society. And so you're just processing it through this imaginary experience. And then this woman said she found my website, and I'm a psychologist, and she went into her counselor's office, made her pull up her computer, pointed out my website, and said, read that. 5 minutes later, her counselor turned around in her chair and said, well, I guess you saw Bigfoot.
So 16 years later, and now you're active in many other things, and you still go up there, and you definitely you haven't kind of quit tracking. You go up there and you present gift bowls and whatnot, and still record and take other people up there. So my question would be, are there any regrets? I mean, do you wish that this had never happened, or are you fine with it now?
I'm fine. I'm fine with it. It's been a growing learning experience. Shortly after the encounter, I was contacted by Dr. Bill York, a British wildlife biologist who had a part-time business in Grants Pass, Oregon. He took me out to lunch, interviewed me, thought I was legit, asked me to get a bunch of guys together so we could get up on the mountain right away for an expedition. So I got about 15 guys together, and within a couple weeks we were back up on top of the mountain above the park boundaries. We spent 2 nights up there. We combed the mountainside on both sides of Mount Elijah, and we found piles. Was a retired Oregon State Trooper, and he was too old to go up and down the mountainside, so his contribution was to stay awake at the camp at night while we were all, because we were exhausted because we went up and down the mountains. So the camp, we're all in our little tents, and we're snoring up a storm, and father and stomped. In walked 3 of them, the mom, my kids. My family wakes up, and I stand up the lights flashlight and go running off. So out and looking. So for the first 10 years, I did the old school approach. And the old school approach is, theoretically, you believe that they're descendants of Gigantopithecus, which is Latin for giant mountain ape, and that they, migrated over the Bering Sea land bridge with everything else, all the other animals and people. And so, you're going after a big, dumb, giant mountain ape trying to prove that they exist. So for 10 years I did that using trail cams and seismic sensors and night vision equipment and thermal imaging and all that kind of stuff. But all this high-tech stuff and this aggressive pursuit of them just pushed them back. And I found plenty of tracks and some scat piles, and, we'd whack on a tree and get a whack back occasionally. We'd blast out a call and get a screen back occasionally. But I was like, after 10 years of that, I was like, is this it? I'm just going to keep pulling tracks up out of the ground, and this is as far as it's going to go. Well, there was this other group of people, Bigfoot researchers, who were called the wacky cuckoos, the woo-woo people, and they were kind of disrespected by the majority of us in Bigfooting because they believed more along the lines of the North American Indians, who for hundreds, if not thousands of years, perceived the Bigfoot species as forest people, not a dumb giant ape, but a people, at least part human, and who had certain abilities, paranormal abilities. And matter of fact, the Oregonian had an article in 1924, almost 100 years ago, when the miners got kind of attacked in their cabin on Ape Canyon around Mount St. Helens. And they interviewed Indian elders at that time in their newspaper article, who described them as being a forest people and part of a tribe with the language and had certain abilities. And, that was almost 100 years ago, that article. So that was pretty cool. So I switched over into the cuckoo crowd. I left all my high-tech gear at home and started going out and doing a Dr. Jane Goodall habituation approach. And that's when I started using gifting bowls, which are essentially large stainless steel dog food bowls, and I would clean them out with while wearing latex gloves and make sure there's no fingerprints on them. Put the food out, put them about 150 feet out away from camp at night so they could hit the bowls without being seen by us. And we'd put it out at sunset to come up at sunrise. And there'd be fingerprints on these bowls and handprints on these bowls. We had them evaluated by a fingerprint expert from the Washington State Police, who said that they were not human and that they were not from any primate from the Seattle Zoo. So that was pretty cool. And I have lots of audio recordings of them as well.
So Bigfoot, the forest people, they're pretty smart. Obviously, to this date, there's never been one caught, correct?
Correct.
And so they're scarcely seen. And so, for that, they got to be pretty brilliant.
They're as smart out there in the woods as we are in the cities. And I would say they're smarter than we are.
Oh, absolutely.
When you really get to know them, they're very smart, yes.
What has been the best part about this whole thing for you since 16 years ago when you saw it? What has been the best part of it, and then what has been the worst part of it?
Well, the best part of it has been I have, after 16 years, have had some really interesting interactions with them in the last 6 months that I now know who they are, where they're from, why they're here, and the journey has come around full circle in 16 years. So I finally feel like I have my answer. I thought, 16 years ago that I was going to go into the woods and grab Bigfoot by the scruff of the neck and drag him out and show him to the world and prove that he exists and that I wasn't crazy. but it turns out that Bigfoot grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, dragged me into the woods, and gave me quite the educational journey. So I've learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about humanity, learned a lot about the Bigfoot forest people. And that's all been an amazing journey, really exciting. And, you know, lots of people have hobbies. Lots of people like to go golfing or deep sea fishing or bowling or biking or, you know, photographing birds or making quilts. And my hobby is going out into the woods and spending time up there trying to understand something. And you can't beat spending time in the woods. It's beautiful. It's therapeutic. And when you're out there with friends, it's awesome, especially when you're out there with big, hairy friends on top of it all. What I haven't liked about it, the Bigfoot community is really political. They're just like any other group of people. You have really awesome people that you are blessed to get to know, and you make some pretty incredible friendships. But, you know, in large groups of people, there's also the idiots, the a-holes, so to speak, who want to ruin it for everybody, who are constantly sniping you and putting you down and being disrespectful to yourself and others. And, you know, it's sad to see that in a group of people, but it's pretty much the norm, no pun intended, norm. And so, you know, that's been the ugly side. And what I didn't like about that is it brought out the competitive nature of myself. You know, I've been an athlete ever since I was a kid. So, you know, if you're going to throw a bow at me, I'm going to throw one back harder at you. And if you're going to play dirty with me, then I'm going to rip your heart out and let you watch it pump once or twice before you hit the floor, because I'm going to win this competition and you're going to lose. And so, you know, early on when these trolls would come out and behave this way, I'd smack them back. And I didn't like what it was bringing out in me. So it's given me an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to develop thick skin, an opportunity to learn how to bite my tongue and not throw elbows back, because as you know, when somebody throws an elbow at you in a basketball game and then you retaliate by throwing an elbow back, the ref never sees the first bow thrown. They always see the retaliatory elbow. And so I just decided I'm going to stop throwing elbows, and I'm going to be a bigger person, and I'm not going to let these guys get to me.
All right. You had sent us some audio clips.
I did, yes.
And we're going to go ahead and play those. So we're going to let you describe what we're going to be listening to. And so we're going to be, the first one is, what are we going to be listening to?
It's going to be the Whispering Adolescent. And what your listeners need to know is that when I switched over to the Dr. Jane Goodall habituation approach, and I left all the high-tech equipment at home, what I meant was I left all the aggressive, in-your-face high-tech equipment at home. However, I started using passive technology, which was utilizing a parabolic microphone dish, which isn't much different than what sports crews use when they're filming a baseball game or a football game. They'll use the parabolic microphone so they can pick up the audio off the field. So, you know, I would use the parabolic microphone dish and put it on top of my vehicle in the base camp. And it could pick up to 100 yards away, and it could pick up sounds that the human ear can't hear. And so your listeners need to know that every night I went out there, I was recording for 8, 10, 12 hours at a time. So what they're about to hear is merely the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg of all the audio clips that I have gleaned from hundreds and hundreds of hours of recordings. This first one was recorded in May of 2012. It's when my son and I were out there with a friend, and we were camping, and my son at that time 4 years ago was 5 years old. He's 9 now. And he knew we were recording, so he knew he needed to be quiet. And he woke me up inside the tent and said, "Dad, I have to go potty." He whispered, and I said, "Okay, go ahead and go." So he unzipped the tent and went outside. Then he came back in and said, "Daddy, I can't lift the water." And, I'm half asleep and said, "Oh, that's right, I'm sorry," because there's a 5-gallon water jug right next to the porta potty toilet, and he's too young to lift that 5-gallon water jug. So I said, "Okay, I'm coming out." Well, when I went home and started listening to the audio recordings, both times that my son came out of that tent, the adolescent male squatch whispered, "Ego Y8." And I've looped it 3 times, so your listeners can hear it, but it's kind of a whispering sound. Ego Y8. So go ahead and play it.
All right, Brian. Interesting. You definitely can hear that.
Yeah,
That is
and
pretty
that was a
fascinating.
game changer. That was a game changer for me.
So
It was like, they have a language.
So when you first heard that, I mean, was it like Christmas for you? I mean,
Yeah, blew my mind. Blew my mind. They have a language, and the fact that he said it both times he walked out of the tent going to the porta potty. I have a friend in Southern Oregon who's Klamath Indian, and she said that word is similar to their Klamath Indian language, and the word in their language means to urinate.
interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. All right. So number 2.
Number 2 is Chatty Cathy, whispering juvenile female. She is very verbal, very vocal, and we caught this audio while we were sleeping. She's whispering on the perimeter of the base camp, and so Squatch Girl. Go ahead and play it.
All right. Here we go, Brian. Wow. They're haunting. That definitely makes the hair stand up on your arms.
Yeah, well, to me, it's pretty awesome. It's like it just changed the whole approach, and it confirmed that the North American Indians were correct, and that these wacko cuckoo Bigfoot researchers were correct. That they're not descendants of Gigantopithecus. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. They are a forest people. They're intelligent. They have a language. They live in family groups. The family groups belong to clans. You get out there and interact with them enough, you find out that they have customs and cultures, and they can make geometric designs, which takes intelligence. It was awesome. Loved it. Loved hearing that.
All right. So the third clip, what are we going to be listening to?
Third clip, December of 2013. The previous month in November, I spoke at a Bigfoot research conference on the coast in Washington. And the gentleman who ran that, Johnny Manson, he's a DJ in Aberdeen, Washington, he came down with me to my research area, and we spent the time up there. Well, it's December 30th, 2013. And up there in the research area, it was 22 degrees. It was flipping cold. We woke up with frost on our bags, and, there was frost all over the trees and icicles hanging. It was cold. Well, during that night, when we were sleeping, Chatty Cathy came up to the end of Johnny's cot and was kind of talking and would wake him up a couple times. And anyway, this caught her at the end of his cot while we were both sleeping. You could hear us breathing heavy while we're sleeping. And she says in a little girl's voice, "Nipkia." So go ahead and play that.
All right. Interesting.
So I'm often asked, well, what does Nipkia mean?
Yep.
And I joke and I say, well, I think what she's saying is, look at this ugly bald-headed guy sleeping here in this cot. That's what Nipkia means. But I have no idea what Nipkia means. No idea at all. I have no idea what any of their words mean. But that's not the point. The point is they're talking.
Right.
And somebody went as far as to say, well, that was just a little human girl. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We are up on the mountains far away from civilization. It is 2 a.m. in the morning. It is 22 degrees. You tell me what little human girl is up there standing at the foot of Johnny's cot in those conditions. So,
wow.
Not a little human girl.
No kidding. All right, what do we got for number 4?
Well, the next one is, a couple hours pass. We wake up. Johnny and I go out and grab the gifting bowls, bring them back to camp. Again, it's 22 degrees. We are freezing. Our hands are numb. You know how your hands get so cold, it's like they're right out in front of you, and you're trying to move them, and you can't, and you're trying to grab something, and your fingers won't move. It was that cold. And I had to try to dig my keys out of my pocket, and we decided we're going to get in the Suburban, turn on the engine, and fire up the heaters and warm ourselves up. So we get in there, but keep in mind, I'm still recording with the parabolic microphone dish. So that's still going. And we're in the car, and the car's idling, and heater's on, and we're warming up. Well, I didn't hear this until after I got home later, and I was listening. But apparently the adolescent male was concerned that we were going to leave, and he was going, Matt, 3 times, and he got more desperate each time he stated it. So go ahead and play it.
Uh-oh. It's not going to let us play it.
So it's not?
No. Brian's checking it out. Yeah, it was a different format than the other 3 that you had sent. So, yeah, so we're not going to get to the last 2.
Okay. Well, the last one isn't going to work either?
No.
Oh. Okay. Well, you're listening to SoundCloud.com. SoundCloud.com.
Okay.
And then type in Team Squatchin USA. Go to SoundCloud.com, type in Team Squatchin USA, and I have a plethora of clips there that they can listen to, which will to that you're unable to, and a whole lot more. And they're going to have to have headphones ready because you can't hear them all just over a cell phone speaker or a computer speaker, and there's hours and hours of audio to listen to.
Okay. So they know your name.
Oh, when I go up there, we have a no lights policy. No campfire, no lanterns, no flashlights. And we keep the camp pitch dark. And I'll stand up there in the middle of camp, and I'll tap my chest with my hand and go, my name is Matt. Matt. My name is Matt. What's your name? My name is Matt. And then I'll have my guests introduce themselves. And I have them recorded saying my name over 15 times. I have them recorded saying my dog's name twice, Cynthia's name once, Adam's name once. I have them recorded, singing and talking and humming, and imitating owls and coyotes, and it's amazing recordings. What's interesting is we sleep out in the open now on cots. We don't sleep in tents. We don't sleep in vehicles. And the way that all started was several years ago. I finally had enough courage to go up and do a solo. For years, I was scared to death to ever go alone. I always brought somebody with me. And so I decided, you know what? After all these years, I always, always, always wake up alive every morning. They have never killed me in my sleep. So I need to stop acting afraid, and I need to look at the data, and the data says I'm safe, so I'm going to go up there alone. So I went up there. I brought my little toy fox terrier with me, and we're in the tent, and he's sleeping on a sleeping bag down by my feet. And again, I'm almost 7 feet tall, so my head is hitting the back of the tent. My feet are hitting the front of the tent. And I hear something pick up the camp stove over by the vehicle about 25 feet away and set it back down. And that's where we had the garbage bag anchored underneath the camp stove. And then I hear the garbage bag being dragged across the ground. And it's like, the garbage bag wasn't so full and so heavy that he couldn't carry it, but he was dragging it across the ground, for effect and to get my attention. And he dragged it and swept it in front of the tent the first time. And my little dog jumped up, ran up toward my head, and dove inside the sleeping bag. Then he picked up the garbage bag and he dragged it in front of the tent a second time. Then he picked up the garbage bag and he dragged it in front of the tent a third time. Each time it was slipping against my feet, which were touching the front of the tent wall. And then he dragged it away from the tent across the dead-end cul-de-sac at the end of the logging road. And he left. Well, when the sun came up, I exited the tent, went over in the direction that he dragged it, and found that he tied the garbage bag to a tree. So I figured he wanted me to come out of the tent. So I did. I stopped sleeping in the tent, and I started sleeping in the back of my Suburban because that freaked me out. And so I'm like, okay, let's see you do that when I'm inside the Suburban. So I'm inside the Suburban, and this time I have a little boy with me. And in the middle of the night, I woke up because I thought I heard something, and I fell back to sleep. Well, when I went home and listened to the audio, he walked into camp, messed with some stuff on the table, and then walked over to the Suburban and knocked on the window. and I'm like, okay, I get it. You did that with the garbage bag with the tent. Now you're knocking on my window, the Suburban. You want me to sleep outside. So that's when I started sleeping out in the open on cots. And anyone who comes with me has to sleep out in the open on the cots. And if they say, well, no, I want to do the tent, then I say, well, then you don't get to come with me because they want you out in the open on the cot so they can come and check you out while we're sleeping. And that's what they do.
Interesting. So we have found the vocal. So it's the is it from December 30th, 2013? The Matt one that we're going to be listening to?
Oh, you got it ready?
Yeah, Brian.
We're on the SoundCloud.
Brian's on SoundCloud, yep.
Yay, good job. Yes.
Let's confirm. Which one is it?
Well, there's a shorter one. You want to play the shorter one. There's a long one where I'm kind of narrating it. You don't want to play that one for your audience.
Okay.
There's a shorter time clip.
There's quite a few clips on here. I'm impressed.
No, like I said, there's a lot. Hours and hours worth.
Now, there's one that says Matt. Is that the correct one?
Well, you definitely hear Matt. You definitely hear your name.
Yeah, that was that kind of blew me away. Now, that wasn't the first time that I've recorded them saying my name, but that was more like, "Don't go. Where are you going?" Because we went in the car and started it up. It was almost like, "Don't leave."
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
So what? I don't know. What do you want out of this whole thing? What would you like to happen? I mean, would you like them? Man, you're a big man and you're sleeping out in the open, and one night they could just come up and just take you in, and you wake up amongst them. I mean, that'd be kind of cool. Kind of a cool thing. Be scary.
Well, we've been in camp. They've come at night when we're there. We've seen them. They've stood there 8 feet away from us. You know, it's been cool to have them up close and personal, but, you know, what did I want out of it? I wanted to know, you know, who are you? Where did you come from? Why are you here? What do you want? And as I shared earlier in the interview, I got those answers in the past 6 months. And they have to share that information, actually, but not until next spring, because they're in transition. Some things are happening, and they want some time for things to happen before I share that information. So I'm going to wait, and I'll share it next April. So, and I know that sounds pretty weird, pretty crazy. Like, what do you mean? You're communicating with them? And the answer is, yeah, I am. And it does sound weird. But as I said, they're intelligent. They can talk. You just heard them talking on the audio. And, yeah, I am communicating with them. And that's also been pretty awesome. So what I've been seeking for the last 16 years finally came to fruition in the last 6 months. So it's been an incredible journey.
And you still, to this day, you're still going up there. How often do you go up to the site?
I go up there once or twice a month. I'm actually going back out there tonight. Going out there tonight and tomorrow night. So go out there and hang out, and it's an amazing experience. It's, I'd much rather do that than go out and golf 18 holes.
No kidding.
So,
I agree with you.
Than go out deep sea fishing or bowling. It's like, everyone has their hobby. This is my hobby, and my hobby has to be awesome. Love my hobby.
So what does your family think? What is your kids? I know you take your youngest up there quite a bit, but what does your other children think about it? About your hobby?
My 20-year-old, the youngest of the older three, has been going out there with me recently too, because he had his own encounter about 6 months ago with a friend of his. And so he's been going out there with me, and he's loving it. And his mom and I have been divorced for over 12, 13 years, and she tried to, divorces aren't always pretty, and tried to write me off as, you're crazy, Dad. But now he's got his confirmation that Dad isn't crazy, because he had his own encounter, and he's been up there with me recently, and they've been there in camp and walking around, and he's like, this is awesome, Dad.
See, and that's the thing, with all these Bigfoot stories, you come across some that, you listen to or you see, and it's like, okay, yeah, that guy's wacko. And it's just not believable. But I have heard your story numerous times now. And this is really, over the phone wise, this is the first time that we have talked about it. We have talked about it over in chat on Facebook and whatnot, but it's believable. And your story is always the same, and it's always told pretty much in the same way. And, for me, I've never seen one. I've got friends that supposedly have seen them and whatnot. But, this story that you tell is a very believable story. And I honestly believe that you saw what you say you saw.
Well, I appreciate that. And I have developed a thick skin over the years. I think one reason why a lot of people perceive me as being credible is, because I have my 2 master's degrees and a doctorate degree. I'm a licensed psychologist. the trolls that I was talking about earlier went as far as making false complaints to the psychology licensing boards in the state of Washington and Oregon, trying to get my license yanked away from me, alleging, false allegations of drug abuse and psychosis, and both licensing boards rejected those complaints, saying, there's no evidence of that, and none of his patients have complained about, the treatment he's providing, so you guys can go climb back into the hole you crawled out of. But there are a lot of other people out there who, don't have the education, but well, our Facebook USA. Anyone on Facebook can go and type in Team Squatching USA and join our group. We have about 7,600 members and lots of people, lots of stories there. Pictures, videos. It's a really good place to come to. It's a safe place to be, and we don't tolerate trolls and disrespect. So it's a safe place for people to share their stories. As far as the skepticism, whenever I talk, and I have opportunities to talk, I spoke down in Hollywood, actually, a couple weeks ago, and that was a sold-out theater. They turned people away at the door. It was pretty fun, and I hit a grand slam, and it delivered really well, and some people afterwards said, "Dude, Tony Robbins spoke here the night before you kicked his butt." I was like, "Well, thank you." I'm going to be speaking in Yelm, Washington, matter of fact, on Saturday, September 17th at the Triad Theater. But anyway, whenever I speak, I always start off humorously saying, 1/3 of you already believe. 1/3 of you are sitting on the fence, and by the time I'm done, you're going to come off the fence. And then the remaining third of you don't know what you're talking about. The remaining third of you who goes, "There's no such thing as a Bigfoot. You're crazy." The reality is, if we're going to be honest, the reason why they take such an adamant stance is they simply can't handle, psychologically, they can't handle the existence of a 9-foot tall, hairy being. And so the only way they can and crazy.
You're breaking up there a little bit. All right, Dr. J, you still with us? We just dropped a call with Dr. J, so let's get him back on here. All right. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, sorry about that. So I was saying that denial is just a natural defense mechanism that we all use for one reason or another to avoid dealing with things that we can't handle. And so that's why you'll have some people put, individuals such as myself down. You're crazy, you're a kook. It's crazy, I'm not a kook. They just can't handle it. So that's their way of dealing with it.
So where can we find? So can pretty much anybody? Give you a call and say, "Hey, I want to go out with you."
No.
Okay.
No. I used to be that way, Norm. I used to be that way. I come one, come all, but the old research area got overrun, and people wouldn't keep their word. I promise I won't tell anybody where this is, and then we'd catch them on video bringing carloads full of friends to the area. So now I'm really select as to who I will allow to come with me. These people I have to vet. And people could call me, people can email me and ask, and it's not that I'll automatically say no. It's just that I have to vet people. I have to make sure that they're trustworthy. I have to make sure that, they're going to abide by some simple rules, which is you don't ever disclose the location. You don't ever go back there without being my guest. Just some simple rules, and you will fall on your sword first before you ever give up this information. So, I have to trust these people because I have years of investment in this research, years of investment in developing the relationships with the forest people, and I can't just let anybody come because there's always, one bad apple in the crowd who's going to ruin it for everybody else.
Right. And where can we find your stuff at? Team Squatchin' USA?
Yeah, the best place is go to the Facebook group, Team Squatchin' USA. There's no G in Squatchin', by the way. It's Squatchin', I-N, not I-N-G.
Okay.
Say.com. And then again, there's YouTube videos. You can go Team Squatchin' USA in YouTube, and there's the audio files on SoundCloud.com. Type in Team Squatchin' USA. But the best place to start is the Facebook group, Team Squatchin' USA. And Norm, if you want to go out, I'll take you out. I know you. I know you won't violate those rules.
Oh, heck
you want
no.
to come up with me.
Heck no. I'll probably have to bring diapers.
Well, and, there is a constitutional difference, the internal makeup. There's a major difference between, a baseball player and a basketball player.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we might have to get you to dribble a basketball and shoot a few times before you'll have, the inner muster to be able to handle it.
Hey, we could work that out. And so...
Yeah, I'm confident I can get you there.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you, and I've known you for a number of years now, and I believe in what you're doing, not only, with the Bigfoot, the forest people, but, I got to admit, I was a love and logic loser at one time, and then Dr. J brought me over to the good side, and I've working with at-risk kids, I've used quite a bit of that stuff, and it does come in handy, and it does work. And so...
by the way, for your listeners, it's called Positive Parenting with a Plan, and that website is family-rules, R-U-L-E-S, family-rules.com.
And it does work, believe me.
Yep.
And so, once again, Dr. Matthew Johnson, Dr. J, dude, it's always awesome talking to you. And let's do this again sometime. Hey, we need to get you up here for the UFO festival in May up here at McMinimans.
That would be fun.
I know they've had a couple of people come through and talk about squatches and stuff like that. And, a local guy, that'd be kind of cool.
Have them invite me.
We will check on that.
I would love to speak there.
All right. Once again, Dr. J, hey, thank you for taking your time on Sunday and chatting with us.
Good. Thank you, Norm, for having me.
All right. And let's do this again sometime soon.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Once again, Dr. Matthew Johnson. I'll tell you, Brian, I've heard tons of stories. And call it what you want. Okay, let's face it, Dr. J is crazy. Okay, but he, his story is legit. He has a legit story, and it's the same thing over and over. And I got to admit, I'm one of those skeptics only because I've never seen. I don't have the experience of a squatch. I don't know. Do you?
No.
So, you know what I'm saying, though? I mean, I kind of... But, you listen to the story, why not?
Why not Superman? Why not Batman? Why not Spider-Man?
Why not?
Why not?
All I know is that there's not enough teams in baseball, minor league baseball, that are using the Sasquatch mold. Of course, you've got the Eugene Emeralds.
There you go.
Down there.
Get a nice close-up of that.
Which camera are we going to?
Let's go to your main one again.
And so there it is. The Eugene Emeralds, man. They jumped on that.
There's a Bigfoot beverage in Eugene as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably related somehow.
Yeah.
But
all right. So, hey, we are Clubhouse Chatter. John D'Acquisto coming on next. We are sponsored by BaseballDudes.com. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. To be the best, you must train like the best. Baseballisms, if you like the shirt I'm wearing or the childhood cancer hat, baseballisms.com. Base by Pros. Hey, Mitch Canham, man, they're in the playoffs. He's got the Clinton Lumber Kings in the playoffs for the Midwestern League, basebypros.com. His dad, Mark Canham, does our shirts for Clubhouse Chatter, MDM Design. And we stream live whenever we stream live on yamhilltoday.com. And hey, we're always looking for sponsors. If you're interested, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, YouTube. Man, we're everywhere it seems like. iTunes, MLB.com blogs. Hey, this time 2 weeks from today, we will know if Eddie Braun lands his jump over the Snake River Canyon. I'm Norm, that's Brian. We'll be right back for show number 2.